Good night, everyone. Good night, evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of C&J Let We Talk. I want to thank you all for being with me this evening, and we will have our regular countdown. Welcome to C&J Let We Talk. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being with me this evening. And remember, today we are looking on how do we attract and maintain meaningful relationships. Today, I will have with me two males and two females to discuss the topic because we're looking on his views, my views, his views, her views. All right. I remember on Wednesdays we do relationship topics, and we spoke about uh, a very interesting topic last week, and we have two of the persons from last week and two new individuals. They're not all yet with me, but remember on C&J Let We Talk, we speak on topics that pertain to individuals our age, younger, older, and I'm always here to inform, educate, and encourage you. So thank you for being with me. And let me see if any of my guests are available at this time. We have only one guest on right now. We have three others to come, and hopefully they will be with us shortly. But good night, Pauline. How are you this evening?
I am good. How are you doing, Claudia?
I'm good. This is the day they say that the Lord has made. So this is the day that the Lord has made, and we
Let us
have to
rejoice.
rejoice and be
Glad in
glad in
it.
it. Glad in it.
Yes.
So we have to be joyful for everything that God has done and are is doing in our lives because we just love Him. So the topic for this evening: how do we attract and maintain meaningful relationships? There's nobody yet in the talk to compete with you on this topic. So could I just have your views? How do we attract and maintain meaningful relationships? You can talk while I try and see what is happening with our other guests.
In order to thank you, Claudia. In order to attract and keep meaningful relationship, it's always important to know yourself, know who you are, and I believe it's also wise for you to love yourself in order to understand what is it about you that others will want to love.
Mhm.
Know exactly what you want out of life, what you want from a relationship. Be loving and love worthy. Um, so that persons around you can feel the sense that you have this passion, not only for self, but for others. So if you're able to respond to you in a positive way, the way that others you want others to, then others will automatically be attracted to you. The important thing too is to you need to love your own company because then you won't become too demanding on the other person to be always in your presence. You will
Mhm.
know that okay, there are time when I need to be alone. Well, time when he would need to be alone. You'll have to have that space, and the next person will understand also that you need that space for self
Mhm.
company to do things that you enjoy, and be aware of others too, how they feel about you being too much, like you're suffocating them. So you don't want to be in a position where you're like that. Um, Try to see people for who they are. Try not to change them. You're going into a relationship. The first thing that attracted you initially to that individual should still be paramount because it was the first thing you saw. They said, first impression lasts. So that impression that you had initially should be what lasts throughout the entire relationship that will cause you to want to build on it. And do not settle for less than what you think you should have. It's important that we do not consider our self-worth to just, okay, I can't find anybody, so I'll just settle for whatever. If you learn to love yourself, if you learn to love your own company, learn to be aware of the things that you need and the type of person that you want around you, then you'll appreciate the next person coming in even more. I I'm single now for 16 years, and I've learned to love myself. Something I've recognized in doing that is that it's not all the time you really want persons to be around you. Sometimes you just want to be. You just want to be, but there are also times when you want to appreciate others as well.
Yes,
So
yes.
it brings you to that context where you get self appreciation, you develop more God awareness, because
Mhm.
your spiritual nature, the fruits of the spirit, as I spoke about last week, is that the fruit of the spirit with you will become better. Because once you start to have this, the spirit of love, the spirit of forbearance, the spirit of patient endurance, every little thing that will make you stand out as an individual that others want to be around, you will be more appreciative not only of you, of yourself, but of others. I'm not sure if
Okay.
anybody want to expand on that.
Yeah, but I think I got a theme from what you were saying. In order for you to attract the right individual for you, you have to first love self and
Mm-hmm.
know understand yourself first. And then
Mm-hmm.
after you understand yourself and who you are, then you'll be able to bring the right person into your situation. And then you'll be able
Definitely.
to build on that because you are a whole human being yourself. I'm getting that
Right.
point.
And
All right.
mature enough to move on and appreciate person for who he or she is, rather than wanting to change that person.
Okay. All right, Sabrina. What we are looking on the topic, how do we attract and build meaningful relationships? Any opening statements from you for that?
I think I do agree with Pauline. I mean, knowing yourself is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And but one of the things that I would like to add is that sometimes we know ourselves in one season and
Mm-hmm.
want to remain like that every season concurrently, when really we should be developing ourselves in each and every season. And that's whether you are single or you're married. And unfortunately, for some persons, they know us in one season and want us to remain that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that which you have been attracted to about me when I was 16, 17, 18, that for me was only the seed of whom I was going to be by the time
Yes.
I'm 30, by the time I'm 40. I mean, you don't expect the oak tree to stay a little oak. And unfortunately, some persons do. So in the first place, it's bearing in mind that what attracted you possibly was just the nucleus, was just the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
who the person could possibly flower into being later
Mm-hmm.
down the road. And my perspective is where you look at from going into from the place of singleness to say possibly marriage, because not everybody is going to get married.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
yeah.
beginning the nucleus of that individual, maybe that
Mm-hmm.
which attracts the individual to start a relationship with them, and then to look at it, I mean, across the board in different types of relationships.
I like that. I like that. The thing that as women, we are one way when we're younger, but as we grow and have different life experiences, we are not expected to be the same. So when you
We
first,
mature.
we mature over time. And the views that we have when we're younger, our life experiences will change. So the same way that we are growing, the men are also changing and growing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you think that women we understand their changes, or do we just always expect them to understand ours? Because the two males that are to be, they're having some issues with the internet. They're not on as yet. So it's our views alone being said right now.
Um,
I I I think sometimes it's that we don't we because we are. as women sometimes are so focused on our own issues, we haven't practiced to look on things from the other side.
Mhm.
And I think that's a challenge for some of us to be able to look at things from the other side, and therefore piece the puzzle together to get a
Mhm.
better picture of
Mhm.
what we're talking about, relationships and attraction within relationships call for.
Trying to understand the next person is it really takes time and effort. And most times I'm not sure if Sabrina will agree with me. The woman spend more time trying to understand the male, what makes him tick, what will throw him off on a particular day, than anything else, because you don't want to find yourself being with someone and the mood just shift on you and you don't know why. So there's something that's always there in the back of our mind as women, that we have to figure out what really is happening. And because men tend not to communicate openly about many things, we always are in a position where we want to think what they're thinking, and we really don't know what they're thinking. Because if it's an open relationship, then you can have that openness that exists where the man and the woman can communicate and say exactly what is inside. It's not that we don't try to know them, it's just that when it comes to certain things, men tend to shut down. um I would like to know whether or not you guys agree with me, because they do tend to shut down, and that's my experience being married. It tend to shut down when it comes to certain issue rather than open up. Another thing that they fail to do too is that when they are hurt, they don't cry. They just observe these things, and then 2 or 3 weeks after, as a woman, you hear exactly, you did exactly this to me. Is that the openness is not there where they want to communicate and relate exactly what is happening with them.
I'm so
And
sorry
so,
that neither of our males are on to be able to answer that question for themselves. Both, I've just been in communication with both, and they're having some technical difficulties, but I'm sure they will be on for soon. But we wonder,
I,
is it? Yes, you may go ahead, Sabrina.
I think that yes, there is the place where we need to understand our men a bit more. And yes, that comes from experience and experience within or relationships. It also comes from culture and cultural observation of communication. And I mean, Pauline did comment that men tend not to communicate. don't think it's tend not to communicate, but it's that we need to have the understanding that men communicate differently, and it's for us to understand how they communicate. And that is something that, I mean, from for us, that sometimes it is a challenge. It takes us stepping a little bit out of our comfort zone of understanding, widening our understanding, and getting
Miss
to
Lenny,
better
but you don't reach your
understand
phone.
how they communicate. And then we know that yes, if we are going to want this relationship to be as healthy as possible, recognize, yes, that as I said, that they communicate in a different way. And yes, sometimes they shut down, but their shutting down is a way of their learned communication. And I'm recognizing that with some of these things, it's things that it's what they learned around them, that they are then also doing within their own relationship. And for some men, they want to do things differently, and will go ahead to get to learn themselves, and see why it is that they communicate in a certain way, and challenge themselves to communicate differently, communicate to the betterment of their relationship. And then the other thing that you commented on was that some men don't cry, but that's because as mothers, women mothers, we allow them to believe that crying is a sign of weakness, and crying is not a normal emotion. It's a normal emotion that we women have perfected. Some of us can cry at the drop of a hat, but we tell our men, we tell our boys, don't cry. If you fall, it hurt. Tears are only natural. You know, if you break your leg, it hurts. Tears are only natural. And this is whether you're a big man or a little boy. And because of that, we have encouraged them as a society to bottle up those emotions. And so, of course, when that bottle opens and starts spewing, pardon the pun, like a volcano, we really don't know how to handle it, because they have kept these things bottled up. And yes, it's about how they process that information. And it takes them a little while to do more processing than we do sometimes, because for us women, we're always thinking and saying exactly what is in our mind. It comes to our mouth sometimes before we have even processed it, so that our communication are healthy, and are not as emotive as we don't want it to be emotive. We want it to be thought out, open conversations with the other individual.
I appreciate what both of you have been saying, and very good points. But it seems as if this even we're having her view, her points, her opinions, so we're not getting any other men on. But one thing that I was writing down, I've been on YouTube and I've seen a number of persons having different things that you should do to attract the right person, and they'll start off like things like ask, if you meet someone, ask them questions that they know that you're interested in what they have to say. Spend time with the individual. Open up about yourself and so on. Learn to trust. Let me just ask you, ladies, uh, if you were to give two things or three things that a young lady who wants to attract the right type of individual or to start a relationship right now, what are two things that you will tell this individual to do other than to know themselves? What would you tell them to do? How would you advise them?
The first and foremost is to be honest and open. Honesty is important. And it's critical that we're honest about how we feel, about who we are, what we do. And we don't come with any flaws, don't make any mistake of coloring it all beautiful. It's just like some of the videos I watch with the women who put on the makeup, and then you see one picture before and after. The before picture must be the before picture and as clear as day. This is who I am. So be open and honest about who you are. Be self-accepting, because if you accept yourself as you are too, it will make it easier for the person to accept you. Um, and you need to know what you want to, because there's no sense going into a relationship, sorry, without any idea of what you want and the kind of relationship you want. So you need to have a clear idea as to what you want from the relationship and be open and honest about it.
I think among the several things, and I do agree with Pauline. For me, knowing yourself, is very important. It's about knowing who you are, but not just know who you are, but where you're going. Because for some persons, getting a relationship is their goal. They don't have any plan for after that. No developmental plan after that. That is the goal. And unfortunately, after you have the goal, you need to know what is going to happen afterwards. So know yourself, who you are, and where you're going. And then the other thing for me about going into a relationship, if you, I mean, whatever kind of relationship it is you're going to go in, and if you're talking about a male female relationship, some persons now are choosing not to get married, which I don't see. Well, that's another conversation totally. But deal with your baggage. I think that if you're going to go into a relationship with someone, and you are going to end up being open and honest, I would say deal with your baggage that you have, and only you and your heart know those things, because they are going to surface and affect your relationship. So I say deal with your baggage. You have those internal things that you have not taken care of, or that you have pushed aside before they come out at the wrong time. I would say deal with that before. I know you can't deal with everything, but there are pertinent things I think that should be dealt with. You should try to deal with before. And then is be clear on what you have to offer and what you are expecting. It shouldn't, some things at this time should not be left unsaid. Be clear what you have to offer and what you're expecting, because if you are going to say I want I'm looking at this as a long-term relationship, and if we get married I want children, I shouldn't be get married to you and then it's, oh, by the way, it's 5 children I want, because the gentleman is going to drop off his chair. you know, because he hasn't sorted out his mind as to how he's going to be able to afford five. You had it in your head that is only is two is better than too many. So I would say be clear on what you have to offer and what you're expecting.
Another thing, I believe that you should not try to enter a relationship with the desire to change the next person, because you might see the person being one way and then you say, okay, I can live with that for now, but when we get married, you have to go change, or you have to go stop doing that. You have recognized that that is a fault that you don't like. Tell the person, look here, if this continue like this, we can't go any further. Don't try to change a person. Is either you accept the individual as he is and then move forward, knowing that, all right, I'm going to live with that shortcoming. And both parties must learn to compromise. That's something that always the Bible said the woman must be submissive. But in all reality, the Bible mean that if the man loves the woman as Christ loved the church, he would never do anything to hurt her. So know exactly how important it is to love a woman as Christ loves the church. And the woman must understand the true meaning of submissiveness. Learn how to compromise. Both parties would have to learn how to do that and understand each other completely. So that's not everything that you're going to follow up on. And that's why it's so important that communication is so critical. It's like the nucleus of a relationship. If we're not communicating, there's going to be some existing problem, because we're not mind readers, we're not science persons, so we can't really tell what you're thinking. So we can't really look in your head, and we are not gods. So you'd have to tell me what is happening, what is it that I'm doing that's making you uncomfortable? And why is it that when I do certain things, you react a particular way? Because as Sabrina rightfully said, there will be a point where men will have too much, and what do they do in order to respond? Rather than communicate, they explode, they become violent. And that's where we find that we lead up to the point where we have women being abused and young girls being abused, because men don't really know how to deal with these issues. I'm sorry that the men are not on so that we can hear their views, but the reality of it is what exists. Yes, there are some women who explode, but most women tend to want to keep the peace most of the time. So if we look at it from that end, and it's not being biased, but if we look at it on both ends, most women tend to be like that. But there are women also who are very explosive, and they do react the complete opposite of how some men expect them to react to certain things. So communicating is important, understanding self, knowing what you want from the relationship. Don't mistake your feeling of lust for love. Ensure that this is a genuine feeling of love you have towards the person, and try to become your true self. If both parties are working towards achieving the true version of him or herself, then we won't have so many problems in relationship. And then both parties will have someone that they really love and are completely attracted to, and they will remain attached to.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. It seems that this week we're having the female's opinion, and next week, the same gentlemen that were supposed to be here, we're going to ask them to come on to talk about their their viewpoint on how it is that they can attract and maintain meaningful relationships. So, ladies, you spoke about ensuring that you know yourself, you understand yourself, you understand the gentleman and realize that they are coming from a different place, understand how they were grown, some of the disadvantages that they may have had, learn to understand them and the way in which they view things, and in order for relationships to be maintained and to be meaningful. You spoke about before you can attract someone, there are certain things that you're supposed to do. You need to be honest with yourself, but know whatever it is that you want. And at this point in our lives, especially ladies who are not in their 20s, you're older, you need, if you're not in an established relationship yet, or you would have been in relationships that did not end well and you're looking to see if you can go into another, you need to be clear as to what it is that you want. Don't take anything for granted. Be totally transparent and head forward knowing exactly what it is that you are, who you are, and who the individual is, and how they can go through together. So I'm just, ladies, we had a very calm discussion this evening because the men weren't here. But any closing comments before we wrap up? We have just 2 minutes.
I say that there's another thing is accept that I will mature and develop or change. Because that's the other thing, as adults, we don't accept that this person or even yourself is going to mature, develop, change. Because what you see now is but one version. What you see now may, as I said earlier, may just
Yes,
be seed of other things. Is the person that that I'm envisioning that I'm going to be? Are you going to be willing to walk alongside me um as I go along and develop? As my friend, as Pauline said, I mean, if there's something that you don't think you're going to tolerate, jump
mm-hmm.
ship immediately. Don't even bother get on board. Accept the person as they are. Are you going to be willing to keep that? Because some of us step into it with the hope that the change will come in the direction that we want it, but it may
Yeah,
not come in the direction that we want it. But
yes,
each
That's true.
individual is going to mature, whether that is going to be positive or negatively, is going to develop, and there is going to be change. Change is going to be happening every day, all the time. You know, you have to prepare your mind to accept that within the scope of a relationship.
beautiful, beautiful. Final words, Pauline?
Um, in other words, with whatever relationship you're entering into, it's always wise to enter that in relationship being good friends, being like the closest person or confidant to the person that you're going to be in the relationship with. Know that you can trust that person with anything, regardless, even if the relationship comes to an end. You know that that person will always be somebody you can rely on to give you valuable counseling, valuable information, and valuable guidance. Um, Realize that you're not in it alone.
Yes.
It is two parties, not one. And there's never a need for a blame game in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Is you
Mm-hmm.
need to sit and communicate and then strive towards the same kind of desire, goal, or objective that you have in the end. Um, Sabrina said something about an oak tree, in terms of you see the seed of an oak. All right, you know that the oak seed is only going to turn into an oak tree. So you
Yeah.
can't get that oak tree to turn into a mango tree, and you can't get that mango seed to turn into a rose.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to know that the fruits from those trees or that tree is going to be what you're going to feed off of. The fruits of courage, the fruits of love, the fruit of patience, the fruit of confidence, the fruit of
Mhm.
self determination, everything that this woman possesses from the onset, everything that that man possesses from the onset. He is a straight shooter and just set things sharp, whether it hurts you or not. Accept that that's his personality, as it's at least he's open and honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So all the fruits that comes with, or the qualities that comes with that person, is either you're going to accept them or reject them. Do
Yeah.
not try to change. And for each relationship, even if the relationship doesn't move on, understand when you break free from a relationship, you have learned some valuable lessons that you would not want to see happening to you in the next one.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
learn from each relationship. So it's important that, one, as I said before, know yourself, love yourself, appreciate who you are. Because the Bible says clearly, love your neighbor as thyself. So if you love yourself first, you have to love yourself first in a very profound way in order to love your neighbor and love your
Mm-hmm.
spouse in that way, so that
Mm-hmm.
you can grow together. So be
Yeah.
confident, be sure of who you are, communicate, and just be honest.
Beautifully said, both ladies. I really appreciate both of you this evening. Remember, this
Thank
was
you for having
CNJ.
us,
Let me
Claudia.
talk. Yes. We didn't have the men this evening, but what we'll do, I just communicated with them that the men will speak on this topic next week. So we'll get an male opinion on the topic, and we'll see how they actually respond to what you ladies are saying tonight. So thank you everyone for being with me on CNJ Let We Talk. Remember, we are here every weekday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we choose a topic and we will discuss it and how it affects us as individuals. See you tomorrow, as I will have Scotty for Thursdays, CNJ and Scotty, where we will discuss another issue. So thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. And I'll see you all tomorrow at 7:30 right here. See you then.